Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to suggest that we start bang on time at 5:30. I know that members of the cast, who you're all very excited and honoured to meet, as I am, have other things to do later. So really, we've got to plan on being out of here in an hour and a quarter. Okay, I'm sorry about that because there's so much we could discuss. Let me just explain how this meeting came about. And why I'm here. I mean, if we'd had a bit more time, you could have had Ken Loach, or Alexei Sale, or David Calder, or Carmen Abulsi, or Michael Rosen, or Gillian Slovo. But we didn't have time for them to come. They would have liked to. You've got me instead. I'm so sorry. I'm Naomi Wimborne-Idrisi, and I'm one of a small group of Palestine Solidarity activists who've been helping Ashtar because they've only just arrived 2 days ago. It's about a week ago they knew that they had this opportunity. So we've been helping them just to do the nitty-gritty and try and make this event come together. We must thank the Globe, actually, for providing this space, because there are too few occasions when Palestinians have the chance to talk to people who are interested to hear what they have to say. So thank you to the Globe for that. It is not a Globe event, however. They provided the space, but it's Ashtar's event, not theirs. What we plan to do is I will introduce the members of the panel, then the members of Ashtar will introduce themselves, and then we'll have basically 2 rounds of questions and discussion. I've got a few questions that I want to put to our Ashtar friends and our other guests, who I'll tell you about in a minute, regarding the play and its significance. Then we can open that for a short discussion to the floor. And then we'll have more general questions, which will be addressed to Ashtar, a little comment from here, and questions and comments from yourselves. I hope that sounds all right. I mean, there's no perfect way of structuring something like this. But basically, we have here, I'm going to refer to my notes, very fortunate to have with us, Sonia Linden, who is a playwright, and whose, I think she'd say her greatest claim to fame is having founded in 2003 a company many of you may have heard of called Ice and Fire. And Ice and Fire say of themselves, the company sees theatre as the natural medium to communicate stories that make real and relevant the impact of human rights issues on our everyday lives. So I think we can see what a valuable contribution Sonia will be able to make. Bidisha here is a face many of you may have seen. She's a writer, a broadcaster, and a critic. She has a new book coming out shortly, at the end of this month, which is called Beyond the Wall, Writing a Path Through Palestine. So again, her interest in the subject matter is clear. She also happens to have a great interest in the monarchs of England, which will be very relevant as well. And as to Ashtar, well, you have seen them in action, and they are going to speak for themselves. I won't presume to tell you who they are. But we have Iman Ayoun, who is the artistic director. We have George, I'm sorry, I don't know your surname.
George Ibrahim.
George Ibrahim. And Nicholas on the end. Nicholas Bolingbroke. So I'm going to sit down and leave the floor to Iman initially. And if you would like to introduce yourselves and let the company speak.
Well, thank you, Naomi. Should I stand?
Yes.
Oh, please.
Thank you, Naomi, for this opportunity, for this meeting with you, lovely people. Thank you for being at the play, first and furthermost. Thank you, Bidisha. Thank you, Sonia, for being with us on this panel. And of course, thanks for the group. Now, I will. I'm the artistic director of Ashtar Theatre. Ashtar is situated in Ramallah. It was founded in '91, but we work all over the West Bank, Gaza, and all over Palestine sometimes. All over historical Palestine. and I'm an actress. You have seen me on stage. This is all what I would say for the moment, but I would like each member of the Richard II group to introduce themselves, because Ashtar Theatre had invited well-known actors from Palestine to be with us in this production, and we're very proud and thankful for them to have answered this call. So, George.
Well, I'm George Ibrahim. Well, I'm an actor, director, playwright, theater manager, artistic director.
They don't need anybody else.
Theater founder. Yeah, I have my own theater back home, which is called Al Qasaba and Cinematic Theater. We work mostly in theater and also in cinema. We used to have, we still having International Film Festival every year, International Theater Festival every year. We produce plays for children, for adults, and I work with Ashtar because we have a long way together since ages.
We're old.
Yeah.
Talk about your school as well.
My white hair and his black hair.
Yeah, and to be true, I was very happy to work with this fine group of actors. Yeah, some of them we are working the first time together, some of them we had the long way together as well. And I'm very pleased to be in the Globe for the first time in my life and to meet all of you. Thank you.
Well, my name is Nicola Bolenbroek. But don't tell my father. So I'm a co-founder of a small theater group based in Beit Jala. Beit Jala is a small town near Bethlehem. Maybe some of you know about it. It's called Al Hara Theater. And this is my third production actually with Ashtar. Last year I had 2, and this year we started with Richard, and we don't know, maybe we'll have more. So I would like to thank you all really for being at the performance and here for the meeting. This means a lot for us as Palestinians to know that there are people in the world, in Europe, in the West, who are still caring and who are still willing to listen to us, to Palestinians, to our stories, to our life. And I believe a lot with your organization, Sonia. Theater is about communicating stories. And this is why we Palestinians, this is maybe one of the main reasons why we believe in theater and why we believe that theater can be a very powerful tool to create change first in Palestine, within the Palestinian community, and regionally, internationally. And here we are here with you today. Maybe some of you, it's the first time to meet with Palestinian artists. And this is by itself, without even seeing the performance, is a message that in Palestine there are people who are working in arts, culture, we're normal people.
No ears.
And we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Go ahead. Richard.
Sammy.
Amazing performance. Without you, really, there was no performance on stage. You were a great audience. We enjoyed it. I loved it. You were with us every minute. I hope the show was enjoyable for you.
Yes.
Great. My name is Sami Mitwasi. I look young, but I'm old.
What about this?
I've co-founded with Nicola Al Hara Theatre as well, and I've started my training at Ashtar Theatre.
Me too, I forgot to say.
Now I'm working as a freelancer, actor, director, theatre director, writer, and music. composer, dancer.
He's a singer as well.
I've lived in London for a year. I work with Palestine Theatre in Motion also. And I've been traveling and working internationally and locally. And hopefully we see you in Palestine.
Thank you for coming. My name is Amr Khalil. I am an actor and director. I started theater in 1980 with the Hakawati Theatre Company. And we were here many times in London and in Europe in the 80s and the 90s. I work with Theatre Day Productions. We work in Gaza and in West Bank. We teach actors and drama. We teach young people how to be actors and drama teachers. We have a whole program for school theatre. I'm trying to make professional youth theatre in Palestine. I started 2 years ago. I started my own project, which is called the Pocket Theatre, and it's a cultural project that moves from place to place in Palestine. And for me, it was a big chance to work, play Shakespeare. It was a great experience with my colleague. We were like, me and George, we worked together with Iman, with Edward, but it was a nice meeting for us. And to be here with you in the Globe was really a pleasure. It was great. We had all kinds of emotions backstage. And really thank you because you also helped us to make this show nice tonight.
My name is Bayan Steve. I'm originally from Jaffa. I grew up in so many countries, Syria, Lebanon, and Cyprus. And finally, I settled down in Palestine. I worked with Ashtar Theatre as an actress, drama trainer, and playwright. I train students. Recently, I'm working as an English literature instructor at Birzeit University. And I lived in England. I did my master's in acting here. It's not my first time in the Globe, but believe me, every time you come on the Globe and perform, it's an amazing energy. And tonight it was even another kind of energy, just knowing that the audience that are coming to see Palestine through Shakespeare's narrative, and that was already a huge burden, but a lovely burden that we enjoy carrying, because we felt that the energy that the audience was throwing to us was amazing. They want to know, so we were ready to tell through Shakespeare. So yeah, that's it.
اوكي اسمي محمد عيد فلسطيني من سكان القدس.
Muhammad Aid, a Palestinian living in Jerusalem.
موظف في مسرح عشتار او بشتغل في مسرح عشتار.
Works at Ashtar Theatre.
كثير سعيد اني انا بعرض في الجلوب، وكثير مبسوط ان انا بيناتكم، كثير مبسوط ان انا شفت علم فلسطين في نهايه. شكرا كثير لكم وانا سعيد.
Very happy to perform in the Globe. Very happy to meet you, and very happy to see the Palestinian flag at the end of the show. The audience are carrying it.
Riyad.
Hello, I'm Iyad Harani. I'm from Ramallah, and I'm studying the Freedom Theatre Acting School. I graduated from before like 4 months as an actor, and this is the second project with the Ashtar Theatre, and it's the first time I feel I am take one step in the road of professionality and the road of theatre, and what I was my dream to be in this place, and thank you to make this happens, and this is true, not just a dream in the middle of the night, and my mother welcome to the school.
Jerusalem. I started acting in 2007 as a hobby. I took a lot of intensive workshops in Jerusalem Palestinian National Theatre, and I went to Italy also to continue to improve myself in acting. I had, let's say, opportunity before, but this is the biggest opportunity I had, thanks for Ashtar Theatre, to allow me to perform in this play. And it was very nice and a pleasure to perform in front of you at the Globe Theatre here in London. And thank you for attending, and thank you for loving us, and we love you.
I would love to ask Nicola to translate.
Yes.
Because I would love to speak in Arabic.
طولش.
اسمي إيهاب زاهدة من مدينة الخليل.
إيهاب زاهدة from Hebron.
عملت في المسرح من 97 في مؤسسة أيام المسرح مع الأخ عامر خليل.
He started theater in 1997 with the same organization with Amr Theater Days Production.
عملنا كثير من الأعمال المسرحية. تنقلنا في كثير أماكن. فيما بعد في بداية العام 2008 قمنا بتأسيس أنا وزملائي مسرح بنسميه مسرح نعم. We call it Yes Theater.
In 2008, the group, which was related to Theater Days Production in Hebron, they started their own theater group, which is called Yes Theater
هذا
in
المسرح
Hebron.
يعنى بالشباب والفتيان في الدرجة الأولى. التارجت جروب تبعنا طلاب بالمدارس.
The target group of the theater, mainly children and young people, school students.
بس شكرا للمجموعة كاملة ممثلين ومخرجين
Thanks for the group, actors, director, producers.
شكرا لمسرح ستار اللي وضعوا ثقتهم انه انا اكون معهم في هذا العمل.
And thanks for Ashtar for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to be in this production.
انا فخور جدا بانه انا اليوم وسطكم، وفخور جدا بانه كانت لي فرصة انه اعرض على مسرح الجلوب هون عندكم.
Very proud to be here with you and very proud to perform at the Globe Theatre in
نتمنى
London.
نشوفكم مرة ثانية ان شاء الله.
Hope to see you again.
Good evening. My name is Hussein Nakhle. I'm from a refugee camp in Ramallah called Ashtar camp. I started working in theater since 25 years old. I appeared or participated in many plays there. The last one is Richard II. Thank you, Ashtar. Thank you, Colonel Morrison, the director.
It's okay, there's Palestinian.
I participate also in maybe 10 or 12 cinema, movies, films. I have a film now, is sharing in a festival in Tunis. I will go to Tunis after this festival to share, to be there in my film there. And also I was news reader in a local TV, Ramallah. And also I write poetry and short stories. I'm so happy to be with you. I'm so happy to be in Globe Theatre. This is the first time for me to be in England. I love it really. I love you. And hope to be more and more times here between you. Thank you very much.
Good evening. بس انا بدي احكي عربي.
Okay.
اوكي. اول شيء مساء الخير للجميع. انا بصراحه يعني الشباب كلهم حكوا ريحوني شوي.
So he's happy that he's almost the last one to speak because most of us talked about things that he wanted to say.
اسمي رائد العيسي من بيت لحم.
Ra'ad al-Ayasa from Bethlehem.
البلش بيت لحم يجيبوه من بلد المسيح. كانوا ردة في
And for you who don't know, Bethlehem is where Jesus was born. So, Jesus and Ra'ad were born in the same city.
البلد اللي بتطلع يعني نبي بتطلع مبدع.
So a city which has a prophet who was born there and an artist like Ra'ad.
Very humble.
شو يحكي عن حالي عشان تعرف. أنا درست المسرح مسرح عشتار. اشتغلت مع عشتار من 96 لغاية الآن تقريبا.
He started working in theater with Ashtar people, that was with Ashtar theater, that was in 1996 till now.
يعني اشتركت في معظم الأعمال اللي كمل فيها وشاركت بمهرجانات دولية وعربية بالمسرح.
With Ashtar theater he participated in different regional, Arabic and international theater festivals.
يعني شاركت بمسلسلات وأفلام يعني عدد كبير.
He did some TV and cinema productions.
وأنا سعيد إني يعني في بريطانيا بعرف أنا جيت على بريطانيا قبل المرة بس ما شاركت في مهرجانات وأول مرة بزور مسرح الجلوب. فخور إني يعني بشوف جمهور هيك بيستمتع بحضر العروض والناس بتزور باستمرار. بتمنى يكون عندنا هيك العادة هاي بإن الجمهور يواظب على حضور المسرحيات.
He was in England before, but visiting family members. It's the first time that he performs in England. He's very happy to be here in the Globe, and not only for the performances, because something that we all noticed, that people, through the whole day, people come as groups, school students, they come to the Globe, they visit, they have like an introduction about Shakespeare, the Globe Theatre, and he says that we hope someday that theatre becomes a habit of the Palestinians like it is here.
شكرا لكم وبتمنى نيجي كمان مرة على مسرحيات ثانية ونشوفوا ظروف الطيبة.
Thank you and hope to see you.
Okay, my name is Edward Malen, Northumberland. Don't get me.
I hate you.
I'm co-founder of Ashtar Theatre, me and Iman.
And he is her husband.
Or she is his wife.
I'm also a co-founder of Al-Hakawati Theatre Company in 1977. So I am an actor. I became also manager, administrator in theatre in Palestine. You have to do all that. I am the director of Theatre of the Press Festival in Palestine at Ashtar Theatre. At the moment, I train Theatre of the Press in Iraq for 2 years. Thank you very much.
Darwish Abu Rish is TV director. He is directing Making of Richard II. Please.
I'm making a film about Ashtar now.
Finally, Connor, please. He's Irish.
You need translation.
He's Arab.
Nicola will translate my Irish. It's a little inappropriate that I'm talking, but hiya Henry, indeed. If I spoke Arabic, I'd be only speaking classical Arabic. You wouldn't understand that. A couple of observations. Just me, it was a deep pleasure and a great privilege to work with these guys, I have to say. It was a bit crazy, frankly, but it was absolutely wonderful. In terms of what I bring
what I bring back and what I tell my friends in Ireland and England, as you can see from just chatting to these guys, what I bring back to counter their images of what they see on TV is I say that this bunch of actors are the warmest, friendliest, sharpest, funniest bunch that I've ever worked with in my life. Do you know? So I bring that back, and I say, you know, when I'm walking down the street in Ramallah and just amongst Palestinians, away from the security situation, so I feel safer than I do when I'm walking down the main street in Dublin. You know, that's one thing that I bring back and say, listen, this is who these people are. You know. The other thing is the quality of the actors, that they're just superb actors, full of openness and energy and talent. You know, it's superb. And I would just like to, you know, if there's anybody in here from the PA or with a big checkbook, I'd just like to kind of just to ratify what Nicola was saying. Just as an Irishman, I know this, because Ireland, the economy's ruined, the weather's miserable. But Ireland keeps its profile high because of the writers and the artists, the actors, the singers, and the writers, and so on. And I know from having worked with these guys and just seeing what's out there, that Palestine could really do the same thing with all its artists. If with a little bit of support and a little bit of recognition, Palestine could actually further its profile, extend its profile, and say, listen, we are many things, but also in terms of its political identity and profile, could publicize it through the arts, given a chance and a little bit of support. And these guys are more than able to do it. You know? So wonderful people, wonderful actors, and with a lot of stories to tell. You know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we see what a rich and amazing bunch of people we're dealing with. Let's get on to some more detailed discussion. I'm very aware of the time, so if people feel that we're running away with it and we need to move on, please just shout at me or something. But I would like to start by addressing to the team, and they're not only here, they're there as well. A little question about Richard. I actually read the play, for which much thanks, because I had not before, and now I have. And you can see that he's a medieval monarch who abuses his power in Shakespeare's version. He's deposed by an opponent who rides a wave of popular approval. And that opponent then goes on, in his turn, to repress rebellions against him. It debates whether and when it's justified to rebel against authority. It talks about the deep attachment to the ancestral land. It looks at banishment from the lands and loss, and many other themes as well. But I wonder, when you set out to do your interpretation, did you treat these as universal themes, or did you find echoes in them that resonated particularly with you, given what we know about you, what you've just told us? So I'd like to hear a little something from your side, whoever you want to speak about that.
It was difficult to read the first, the second, and the third time. It was quite a headache, and I thought really that we were working together, Bayan and I, in the beginning, trying to understand what the words say, and we were going, is this Shakespeare? We were doubting a lot, and then we discovered much of the translation was wrong.
Translations?
Yes. So, thanks to Colin, who, when he came on board, we were able to understand what the play means more in depth. Because if we didn't have Conan with his knowledge of Shakespeare, even in the English, we wouldn't be able, with the English and the Arabic, to really comprehend what Shakespeare wanted to tell through his characters. Now, to answer the question more accurate, first of all, we wanted to look at the play as a play, to see the setting of the play, where it was and when it was written. And then the second layer was in a more human, global perception of what the play might mean. Then on the third level, it was okay, so what it means to us. If we're taking it, then why are we doing it? Because, of course, we're a theater group, but we're not specialized in classical work, and we do not really do, as Ashtar Theater, we do not do classical work. Most of our work is based on device work. So we take our own stories and we transform them into theater work, and then we present them in Palestine and to the world. So I try to understand where we're going to fish through this narration or narrative, and maybe the connection or part of the connection of why Richard II in Palestine and what the connection might be is that I try to unfold it from the end to the beginning, because in the end Richard comes to Palestine. Henry comes to Palestine to clean his hands. So I said, okay.
Everybody does.
Yes. They clean their hands and they dirty our lands. Yes. Okay. So this is exactly that was the
rosary.
The rosary that started to break out. And before, well, Henry comes to Palestine, but Richard invades Ireland. And this is why an Irish director is exactly. Because it is our narrative. It's a Palestinian Irish narration. Because Ireland is, or was, or partially, I don't know. I have to look at it.
Let's not talk about it.
It's not my turn.
Okay, was occupied by Great Britain, and so was Palestine. Okay, so I mean, we're not talking about that in that era. We're talking about that now, in these days. So what more for us into it than because the Globe had seen and because the Globe had proposed this play for Ashtar, for us to do it, and they said, this looks a little bit, it gives a little bit, or it connects probably with what's going on in the region. Okay, they just throw it, but it might. Okay, we thought it might, but it might be beyond that even. Beyond it means that Shakespeare, for us, he had spoken about every dictatorship and every tyrant and every power at any time, and so we are facing this on different level. The Arab world is facing it, but the world in general has faced it and is facing it in many places. So this is the connection that we have found. There is more to tell, but I'll stop it. So thank you.
Great answer. Before we open to the floor, we have yet to hear from Sonia and Badisha, so I do have a question for each of them. Then we'll have a round from you guys, and then we'll open up a few more general questions. What was I going to ask you, Badisha? Let me see if I can find it. Yes, here we go. Badisha, we've already referred to her interest in medieval monarchs. And
it's an interest, not an expertise.
There's an interest. But given you have this general interest in the Palestinian situation, and you have a general interest in culture at large. So, what is it about King Richard's story that you find particularly compelling, and what is it about today's production that you feel inspired by? Assuming you did, I'm sure you did.
I did. I absolutely did. Richard is a very, very interesting king, and in fact, I think the Plantagenets are generally a very interesting family. The Tudors get all of the razzle-dazzle and the great over-costumed television series, but actually, if you look at the Plantagenets, the Tudors have what I call exteriority, so they are constantly killing other people, killing wives, this, that, and the other, waging wars, and doing things out in the land. The Plantagenets have something which is much more claustrophobic and much more toxic and much more interior. So you have fathers and uncles killing sons and nephews and nieces. You have this very, very claustrophobic court. And you've got Richard II, who can be interpreted in many different ways, and I agree with the staging and the interpretation of Richard II as we have here. He is seen as brattish and fastidious and petty and easily swayed, but what's interesting about this play is that it represents Gaunt as being this quite a rock-solid patriarch-type character by the end. He gains some kind of nobility, and if you're interested in reality, Gaunt was not like that. I mean, the Plantagenets were a very sick, bloody family, and there are many court records showing that, and it's no secret at all. But I want to emphasize what Nicola and Iman have both said, which is that we should be very wary of over-interpreting Richard II in the light of the Palestinian question, as though every single thing a Palestinian person does is a reflection of the military occupation and about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. That's not the case at all. The point about this, and the reason why this is flying as a production, is exactly the opposite, which is exactly what you said, which is in every situation, particularly in straitened circumstances, you have an incredible flourishing of resistance. And that resistance is political and it's diplomatic, but it's also cultural. So what it means is that people are determined to normalize their lives. So not everything is imbued self-consciously with political, with political deliberation. It's about artists saying, I want to create. It's a very simple and profound thing to say. I want the freedom to create, to set up artistic practices, to exhibit, to perform, to go on tour. These are normal and absolutely basic human rights. And so, although we talk about this whole situation as though it's very difficult and as though a lot of effort has to be put forward in making a political case, actually what's happening here is a form of cultural diplomacy in itself, simply by virtue of existing. I would be very cautious about saying that Richard II is a really close examination of the things that you said. It's not, it's not really about banishment from the land. It's not about settlement of land. It's about Richard II. These plays are not called the Plantagenets and the Tudors, and they're not called the dictators or the kings. They are character studies. And it works very well if you look at exactly what Iman said, which is that what I was imagining was one of those very, very wealthy Saudi families, proper dictatorships, where you've got the father in the hot seat and then you've got the son looking at the chair of power, and then you've got the uncle going, well, if the son kills the father and I kill the uncle, then we get the guards to kill everyone, then we have a palace massacre. But this has happened. This is not completely ridiculous to suggest. That's what I was thinking. And the grandiosity of the costumes, that idea that the moment a seemingly humble man gets into power, it takes them about 2 weeks before they're wearing the military insignia and they're building each other up, and they suddenly take on the mantle. Whoever it was who was seen to free the people suddenly takes on the mantle of a dictator with them. And this is totally universal. So that is what I take from it. But more profoundly, what I take is just the idea that artistic creation and dramaturgy, and that drama is wholly universal and is a human right to create and perform.
Wonderful. Lovely. Thank you very much. And now to Sonia. Sonia's work is seen mainly as verbatim theatre, which means she's representing underrepresented voices in her work, rather than looking at these high-level power struggles that we see. I love the Saudi royal family idea. That's really brilliant. So
don't assassinate me, anyone.
So Sonia, can you relate equally to stories like this, which address power in the palaces and corruption in high offices and so on. How were you affected by Ashtar's treatment of this play?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Ashtar on a fantastic production. And also, it's not an easy play, and it's not a play that I know very well, you know very well. So I think that the way they managed to reach out to the audience was, I thought, phenomenal, actually, that they really made contact and connection, you know, despite the fact it was in a language that we didn't understand, and possibly a play that a lot of us did not know, and quite a complex play. And I agree with Khadija about the fact that a Palestinian theatre company does not have to be always telling, you know, can do any work, you know, and that in itself is a form of cultural resistance. And I think that's really where I come into play, because the work that I have been doing at Ice and Fire Theatre, which started in 2003, and I founded that company because I have this passionate belief that art really does have a role in our very conflict-ridden world. And the artist's role is to engage and also to reflect. And what we've mostly done is to really give voice to the voiceless, you know, to people who are disempowered. So that's where power would come into it. So in the company, we would meet people who came from Darfur or from Palestine, in fact, because 2 plays have been written about Palestine. I've written a play, ironically called Welcome to Ramallah, and it was an ironic title, but also a play called Palestine Monologues, where what we did was we took verbatim accounts of people on all sides of the occupation, and we presented that in a documentary play. So I'm not really answering your question, which is my response is that I'm interested in theatre as a forum for communicating, with my own company, issues of human rights. But I see the theatre and art as a form of non-violent resistance, in fact, cultural resistance. That's why I applaud it. And I think the role of art for people who are politically oppressed or persecuted has had a very important historic existence. And I would, for example, quote Primo Levi, who wrote the seminal work on his experience in Auschwitz. He talked about the fact in the preface of his book that when he was in that camp, they would talk all the time about how are we going to communicate this to people. We have to tell the story. So bearing witness is a hugely important thing. But he also said that after writing it, it was an act of liberation. And I think telling these stories for people who are at the receiving end of oppression is both enormously therapeutic but also very empowering and is a form, as I've said, of resistance. That's all I have to say on that matter. That's where I identify very strongly with what you have done.
Thanks very much. I'm looking at the time and I'm looking at the size of this audience and I'm thinking you probably don't want to hear any more questions from me.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. If it so happens that in the next 5 to 10 minutes nobody asks some questions that some of us were expecting to come up, I may interject. But would you like to indicate if you have questions, for whom your questions are, and a little bit of, you could identify yourselves unless you have any strong objection to doing so. Let me see. Gentleman over there first.
My name is Ray. My question is to everybody in the company, really, what other play by Shakespeare would you be particularly interested in now? And secondly, how can we persuade the Globe to invite you back as soon as possible?
أي من مسرحيات شكسبير بتحب تعملها؟
وإذا كان أقنعنا الجلوب
كيف ممكن يقنعوا الجلوب؟
I would love to do King Lear.
Did you persuade? I think you did.
Yes.
Already Dominic is quite convinced that you will die. he would invite George with King Lear next year.
No, maybe the Globe will produce it, you know, for Palestinian actors. Yeah, why not? It's about time, I believe.
It's about time. It's
Yes.
on the agenda then, is it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. Another hand, I saw several. The lady here, please.
Hi, I'm Sam Carney from the Liverpool Arabic Arts Festival. I wanted to ask, because I had the privilege of coming to Ramallah when they did the first reading of the play. And I echo what was said, it's a very difficult play initially, unlike a lot of other Shakespeare plays. Initially it's very flat. What I wanted to say is the story was still recognizably Shakespeare and the dialogue, but the humor was entirely Arabic. And the energy, the drama and the shouting was entirely Arabic. And I wanted to say, how did you decide where to allow yourself free rein to be Ashtar and to be Ramallah, and where did you restrain yourself and respect it to work as it was?
Well, actually, it's يعني one important thing of how the play ended like this is the director. I think it was one of the most important. He was the leader, and he led the group to this kind of performance. At the end, we are Palestinians. We are Arabs. We're not British actors. And if we don't put our souls, our backgrounds, our talents, our skills, our traditions, even in anything that we do, I think you will not believe us. We can't pretend not to be Arabs, not to be Palestinians. We are, and I think this is a point to the play that you were able to see us as Arabs. So the director, us as actors, of course, we had the freedom, a little bit of freedom. Actually, a lot of freedom to put ourselves, to put our souls, our Arabic, as you call it, sense of humor.
I want to add a secret.
Yeah.
reveal a secret. We were a pain in the neck for Canada in the beginning. Let's put it this way, because we were resisting. We didn't know. It's difficult. We wanted a Shakespeare with a Shakespearean costume in the we didn't know why or what and how, or some of us wanted the classical Shakespeare because we are also thirsty to do a Shakespeare. We're thirsty to do international work, and we loved it. We love Shakespeare. We don't do it often, but we love his work. But we were a bit like dancing valse, if you want. Okay? So if we want to do, we didn't want to charge it or overcharge it with politics. We were skeptical, we were a bit afraid. But then I think Connor was walking in between dots afraid. Sometimes he would listen, and sometimes he would try to push, and then listen and then try to push. But I think when we had felt as actors that we're relaxed in the text and we're relaxed in the story, and that the story we're not afraid anymore of the politics of the story, I think we gave ourselves to it.
Yeah. And the language, and to talk about this experience, the classical Arabic is very difficult even for us as Arabs, because it's not used every day. So we worked at maybe half of the rehearsal time was working on the text, on the language, and this took a lot, and it was good, because like Razan today, one of her comments was that I didn't I didn't hear classical Arabic. It was close to me, the language that you spoke. And till we reached this point that we believed in what we said, and we all had problems, and I myself had a terrible problem, and a collapse one day in the rehearsal because of the language, really. But working on it also with the help of course, George, Iman, and Edouard, and Hussein, the experts in Arabic, we broke the language, and this also helped a lot in being as much normal as we can on stage.
I didn't like Richard II at the beginning. And I was opposing it because it is bloody, lots of blood, and I was fighting with Connell about the blood till the last 10 minutes of the first show. Why this bloody thing? Because we are Palestinians, we have to be bloody. This is what I mean.
Terrific, that was terrific, the blood.
I was going to ask Roger.
Can I, just with the language, I'm an actor, and what our thing with that, we're blessed with this poetic Shakespeare verse, the blank verse, blessed stroke oppressed, because we find it very difficult to speak the language, to speak. It's a challenge for us to speak, and sometimes the language can get in the way of understanding the play. What I found so powerful about the passion that you all gave to the performance was the clarity of the story, which obviously was helped by the paraphrasing and the writing, which was really useful. So that, for instance, you know, when I think it's York who says he's disappointed in Richard because he feels he's ruined the country because of going to wars and high taxation. I thought, well, not a lot has changed. And that was very clear, which, you know, I'm not certain whether I'd have seen that. I haven't seen the play in English for a while, and it's a while since I've read it. I'm not sure I'd have got that point. Because you're listening to the verse, and you're listening, oh, beautiful how Shakespeare put, you know, now let us sit upon the ground and beat sad stories of the death of kings. And I was looking, and obviously you transposed that very famous speech to us, and we all wait for that to happen. And I wondered then, with the language you're talking about, classical Hebrew, whether you Arabic. So sorry.
The same roots.
The same roots. Yes.
Is this a blank verse? Is this a verse? Is this a different?
This is. We are using the classical Arabic. It is the Arabic of the books. It is the Arabic of the TV. It is very classical. It is the Arabic of the Quran.
Is it that you worked out yourself with your own group, or was it an actual published translation of the play into Arabic which you used?
But this is just 2 words about the translation. This is modern classical Arabic.
Yeah.
This is not ancient classical Arabic. This is first, and that's why Razan felt that as if we are talking colloquial Arabic. We had taken a written, published classical Arabic by an Egyptian translator called Muhammad Anani. But we have taken this book, his ancient classical Arabic, and we gave it to a well-known Palestinian poet called Ghassan Zaqatan, and he transformed it into a modern classical Arabic. And that's why it became more accurate and more understandable for us as well. And that's why we felt that we belong to it.
And is that in a sort of verse structure, like
Yes.
we have a 1, 2, a 5 beat?
No.
It loses the beat when you take it into another language with everybody, with the original Arabic.
But do you have your own? Is it the different beats?
There is no beats. No. We don't work on beats.
No, we don't even in our poetry in Arabic. We don't work on beats. We work on the different.
It's not 6 and 8 like Shakespeare.
No. But can I? Sorry. Can I just say I thought the blood was wonderful. The way you got the dead bodies off the stage. That it was just a very effective and interesting way of getting bodies off the stage when they're dead. Economically, that's rather interesting.
Great. Yes. That's great. Thank you, Roger. A really interesting contribution. I've got actually 3 hands here. I'm going to start with Les. Yes, that's right.
Yes, just first, a brief point. Your wonderful production reminds us that historically, performances of Shakespeare plays have always gone beyond the script. And perhaps there is no such thing as classical Shakespeare. There are versions adapted for a particular context. But my question is on a different level. I want to know Ashtar's view of Israeli theater companies which perform in the occupied West Bank, especially Habima Theater Company, which is set to perform in this Globe to Globe series later in May. Naomi introduced the meeting by apologizing for the absence of several well-known theater professionals. Those individuals are relevant because they jointly signed a letter asking the Globe Theatre to cancel its invitation to the Habima Theatre Company on grounds that Habima performs in the occupied West Bank. Moreover, that in its own defense, it said we are required by our funding to perform all over the country, which means they accept the effective annexation of the West Bank into the State of Israel. So I want to ask, what is Ashtar's view of the call for the Shakespeare's Globe to cancel its invitation to Habima?
Well, first of all, we support the BDS and cultural boycott. Not only as Ashtar Theatre, but also as all the theatre groups and companies who exist here in the room. We have written also for the Globe, asking them to consider
cancel.
Because we were also shocked by the fact to know that Habima was on board and that they perform in the settlements. Of course, we do not agree to any Israeli presence in the West Bank. If it is a hostile presence like the settlements, and those who are complicit with the Israeli policies and government and the occupation. So this is our stand. This is our point, and sometimes we have to face even worse than just say. Please don't do this or please don't do that, because we are living it. Because we cannot go from one point to another, one city to another, because of the settlements that are there. Because the settlements exist, then the wall exists and the checkpoints exists, and because we are even now that we are here and we have traveled. Successfully, but we had to go from 2 different airports because Palestinians cannot travel through Tel Aviv. But when we traveled through Tel Aviv, we had to face hell. And we had to be strip searched, and we had to take off our clothes, and we had to hands put even on our very sensitive places. And even though they know that we are coming to the Globe and performing in a festival. So they don't care. But we don't care as well, and our voice will stay loud. And we would say no for the occupation and no for anyone who would support the occupation.
Here, but let's have a quick
I'll just add something on what Iman said. We were talking yesterday about the boycott and Habiba or not Habima. For me, and maybe for the group, it's not about Habima. It's about any Israeli organization, governmental, non-governmental, because for us as Palestinians, we call for boycotting Israel. That's it. As long as we are under military occupation, as long as there is no justice in our area, as long as we are deprived from very basic human rights as human beings, we call for boycotting Israel as a state, as Kayan, as a state. So I just wanted to add, because for us it's not about Habima or not Habima. It's about an Israeli existence in our land, in our area. So I just wanted to add this.
That's very clear. Tim and then
Tim Hogan, the historical background to the play, Shakespeare was writing about events that happened 700 years ago when Richard and Henry went to Ireland. When they came to Ireland, they brought lots of troops, lots of guns, lots of settlers, but they didn't win. And it took us a long time, but every generation formed a resistance. And it's, I think, we sympathize with the Palestinians today because we can see that every succeeding Palestinian generation is doing better than the previous generation, and Palestine will succeed in the end.
Vanessa.
I just wanted to say it's a real privilege and very, very exciting to see you today. And I really like the use of the Trio Joubran Brothers music. I've been here some well now and I've seen them perform, so it's really good to hear that. I was going to ask you about the difficulty about rehearsing and meeting together, given that you live in different parts of West Bank, and about the difficulties in getting into Gaza as well. And the other question was, did the Globe decide on this play for you, or did they give you a choice? Because the director of the from the company from Mumbai last week, who were doing 12th Night, said they were given a small selection and they decided on 12th Night because it was the most Indian. But I just wondered whether you've got any choice at all, whether they decided on.
Okay, let me answer this first. Well, when they gave the call out, by the time that we have decided within Ashtar, my colleague Brian was more suggesting the taming of the shrew. When we asked them, or when we said, because also
because she wants to play the part.
Yes, no, not only yes, but not only that, but because also for Ashtar, because we work on issues that are very much to do with women, and we did many plays about women issues. So we so that was also one of the of why Taming of the Shrew, because it speaks to us, and we're both women as well. So that was the drive behind it. Anyway, the Globe said, well, someone else had taken it already. Why don't you do Richard II? So we said, okay, let's read it. We didn't know about Richard II. And then when we read it, and they said, well, it might be connected somehow. And so that's how it came, Richard II, because most of the plays were already taken. Okay, so they did not impose, but it was more influential, or they tried to influence us.
I'd like to follow this question up with if there's anyone here from the Globe who did make that selection, did they have any agenda about Richard II for being performed by a Palestinian company?
Because there are other Arab groups on board. So I mean, I don't think it. I like to see the good side of the people. I don't think there is a bad agenda about it. But maybe one of the drives for I assume, one of the drives for the Globe is that Ashtar Theatre is known for working in political theatre, or let's say, working on issues of human rights and issues of politics in our plays. We're not doing political plays, but we are concerned about our life, our daily stories, because the Globe had taken knowledge about Ashtar Theatre through the Gaza monologues. The Gaza monologues were a project that was done in 2010 in 36 countries all over the world. And over 60 companies, international companies, have made the Gaza monologues in 14 languages. So they knew of us through that. So they knew what kind of work we do. I think this was more the drive than anything else, if I answered.
I'm going to say, there's a part of Vanessa's question which I think is very interesting and hasn't been addressed yet, which was the question of how you communicate, given that you have explained you all come from different parts of Palestine. How does that affect your work, just the practicalities of dealing with the obstructions that are put in your way?
Yeah, I think I'll give the floor for those who come from different parts, like Nicola and
the rehearsals were in Ramallah, and Ashtar Theatre tried their best to give us all what we need. They even gave us their own flat to live in. But some of us, like I live with my father, he's old, I can't leave him. So I had to drive every day from Beit Jala to Ramallah and back, and this takes, in a normal situation, like 1 hour and a half, but I have to cross 2 checkpoints. One going out of Bethlehem and one coming in Ramallah. So it always depends on how they are treating people on the checkpoint. Sometimes it takes 1 minute and it's open, there is no problem. And sometimes it can take a few hours to cross a checkpoint. So this is the kind of life. I hate to say that we're getting used to it, because we shouldn't, because this is not normal. But till now, this is the kind of difficulties that we have to face every single day in our life. So it's not easy. Like Ihab, he comes from Hebron, which is even a longer distance. He's married, he has children, he has responsibilities in Hebron, so he couldn't sleep every night in Ramallah. So people come from Jerusalem. It's even sometimes more difficult, like Firas.
It must be like 25 minutes. Really, I felt London is closer than
Really.
Yeah,
there was a... Sorry.
We spent more than... when I'm going to Ramallah, I study in Birzeit University. It's like 45 minutes from Jerusalem or 1 hour. But really, I'm spending a day traveling. It's like I'm going to a further country. It's like Europe. So collect these hours just spending on checkpoints. I'm going to have a different life, or another life here to my life. It's 3 hours daily.
There was a comment when we sat here that, Bolingbroke is going to Jerusalem. I said, Bolingbroke, it's possible for him to go to Jerusalem even before I do. I have a Palestinian ID and I can't enter Jerusalem, which is there. Beit Jala is there and Jerusalem is really there.
So he said, so let's go to Jerusalem. I said, you don't have a permission. I was in Jerusalem. He said, you don't have a permission.
If I may, I have to leave, but I have to say this. Don't forget that we are sieged.
Yes. Yes.
All of us, all the Palestinians, we are sieged. We are divided. Even this Jerusalem is divided. I'm from Jerusalem, and they put a wall, and sometimes the wall cuts houses. And separate neighbors who they were ages together, they separated them. I can't go from this place to that place without going around the wall. You have to go there and see. It is very cruel and ugly. And we are sieged with settlements. We have to pass through the settlements, and through the settlements you have to pass checkpoints. It's a cruel life. I don't believe that some of you can bear this kind of life. But we're getting used to it. We're getting used to it because we're getting used to it because we want to live. We want to go on living, and we want to oppose that. We want to fight back. Yeah, this kind of life. Now we are not getting used to it because we became very weak and said, "Well, no, we want to go on.
We want to grow."
Yeah. We want to go on. This is what we are doing. And I'm really sorry, I have an appointment with the National Theatre. I have to rush.
Good.
Wait a minute.
Who are you going for?
There's that checkpoint here. Not
Maybe
yet.
during the Olympics.
Nicholas is a dear friend of mine. That's why I'm not going to work. I'm going to work. So thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Guys, I'll meet you later. See you later. Thank you very much.
It's okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We are going to wind up in 5 or 10 minutes anyway. If it's all right with everybody else, I would like to let Badisha and Sonia both just have a couple of minutes to comment. They've been seething with ideas while the discussion has gone on. And then I don't know if there may be a few minutes for people to mill around and talk to you, Iman and others from Ashtar maybe. Sure. Yeah, that would be great. So let's have, Badisha, you said earlier that you had a few things you'd like to comment.
Only because I just want to, again, second what everyone's saying, which is that I toured the West Bank and all the major cities last year, and we couldn't go to Jenin because it was immediately following the assassination of its director, and everyone was very still in the fallout from that, and we felt it was the wrong thing to do to go, but we went everywhere else. What people don't realise is that the West Bank is 5 hours from top to bottom in car. It's a tiny area, and but for the checkpoints, all of these cities that we're talking about would be seen as suburbs of each other, right? And instead, simply because you've got what I call ethnic roads, which is that you have the settler roads, which are beautifully paved, wonderfully curving roads, and then you have some crappy underpass for Palestinians, which takes you on in Hebron, for example, a 1 kilometer pass has a diversion which is 12 kilometers. Were it not for these checkpoints, these areas would be very close together. So this is about understanding what the reality of an occupation is geographically and psychologically. So if you want to occupy a people psychologically, you can do certain physical things. And you can see these things. There's a thing called the United Nations West Bank Closure and Access Map, which is very, very graphic, and it shows you exactly where the wall is. It shows you exactly where every single closure is. If you want to oppress a people, build a wall which is so big, it's 8 meters high, and it's got electric fencing on both sides, it's got electrified barbed wire on the top. Build it so that it cuts across your high street. If you can imagine your normal high street, it cuts across it. Build it so that it is built that much away from the last house in Bethlehem, so Bethlehem can't grow. Put enormous concrete blocks which are 1 meter cubed just in the middle of the road. Make sure that everything that you build is bigger, much bigger than the people around it, so that the people who have to live there feel dwarfed. on top of these sorts of things, just solder shut doors. Go around to Hebron and solder the doors shut. You know about this, 101 closures. Of course you know about it.
I think he knows about it. It's his door.
101 closures. Someone went around counting how many closures there are in Hebron. It's 101. So one day you come and you try and open a door, and someone soldered it shut in the most ugly way. So make sure the city is deliberately ugly. If you are used to travelling along one route, make sure that one day you arrive and someone has dug an enormous trench. Just like that. Just dug an enormous trench out so that you can't pass it. The other way to psychologically control people is not just by physical means, it's by mental means. So you institute a system of permits, and then, as in a science fiction novel or a Kafka novel, you change the rules arbitrarily. So you have a permit to go from A to B. You and I are in exactly the same situation. I try and go for a permit, and they say, no, the rules have changed. And you say, but we have exactly the same criteria. They go, no. It's Tuesday. The rules have changed. Come back Wednesday. The rules might have changed in a completely different way. That's how to do it. Have some checkpoints which are really difficult to get through, or friendly one day and not friendly the next day. Have another checkpoint which is empty, which you just go through. And if anyone is imagining a checkpoint, checkpoints are not like passport control where you queue up and you show a passport. They have metal grills so that you trudge along and then you try and push the grill. It's a human-sized metal grill. And if there's a green light at the top, you can go through. But if you go through too fast, then you get shouted at. And then there's a metal detector. And if you go through without your belt, as though you're on some sort of Ryanair mini break, right? You get shouted at, you come back, you take off your belt. Then they laugh at you. Then they shout at you. Or they might be nice. This is the point, is that it's complete nihilism. And what it leads to is pathological behavior on the part of both the oppressors and the people who go through it. This is the thing. It doesn't turn everyone into an oppressor or a victim. It leads to pathological behaviors. So you start off the day going, well, I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. Shall I leave now? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Or shall I just wait until midday? Because yesterday it took no time at all, and today, so I don't. So what it does, what an occupation does, and this is true of absolutely every occupation everywhere in history, as Shakespeare knew, is that it suspends an entire people, an entire nation, because you don't know, literally you don't know which way is up. You don't know what is the route from A to B. You don't know if you'll get to B today or tomorrow. You can't tell your uncle or your aunt, oh, I'll meet you in the cafe at 4 o'clock, because you don't know if you'll be there. And if you're politically active, you might just be taken away in the middle of the night and interrogated, or worse, your kids might be. And this is something which is well known, which is the arrest and the detention of children. And I'm talking about children who are 9, who are 10, who come away having been beaten up or just left in a cold room for 5 hours. And until you get there, you don't understand it. But basically, I have to wrap up. Basically, everything you've heard about an occupation situation is true. And then you come back and you go to the National Theatre, you come to the Globe, and it's all marvellous and everyone's wonderful. All I'm really saying is, having been there, it's all true. Everything you've read, everything you've heard is true and is worse simply because of the long-term psychological effect on everybody involved. That's all I want to say.
Let's hear a few concluding words from Sonia,
Yes, just a few.
and then we'll break up and chat.
I just want to say that everything that Vidisha has so eloquently expressed to you, I want to come back to art now. That's something that my theatre company has tried to convey through theatre, through the 2 plays that I've just mentioned. And I just want to end on the point, because we're talking about art, the power of theatre to communicate very important issues, transmute them and transform them through art. And so I thought I would end by just reading you a very, very, very short few lines from a persecuted writer, ironically a Russian Jewish persecuted writer called Osip Mandelstam, and it really sums up everything, because all you're left with, in fact, is your voice, as you have powerfully expressed. Can I just read it to you? It's just a few lines. I think it would sort of sum it up and bring us back to art and the power of art. And in this, he was actually arrested and finally was killed under Stalinist regime. And this is the very short poem. You took away all the oceans and all the room. You gave me my shoe size in earth with bars around it. Where did it get you? Nowhere. You left me my lips, and they shape words, even in silence.
Wow.